We are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Adventure on So Many Levels. We're going to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Indeed. Indeed.
I am Christiana Ellis, the Dungeon Master, and our players tonight, Starla Hodgson as Carolina Swift,
Hello, friends.
Mark Kilfoyle as Nedry Shiny Rock,
The festival is kind of questionable, but not the way I usually anticipate.
Paul Fisher as Zinhorn Windborn,
Good evening.
John Merlin as Baldu,
We are the champions. And I promise that's the last singing you'll get from me tonight.
and Jenny Meltzer as Zaleen.
Hello.
So, when last we left the Pocket Protectors, they were winning the trophy of the big trophy at the Amersham Beach Festival. There was a little bit of cheating involved on the part of the Solomonia crowd, the arch nemesis of Zaleen's newly acquired goth kid friends. So in the effort of representing the Mistress of the Dark, you succeeded in your mission to win that big trophy and make them look bad. So, one of your number was not with you in that particular competition. Carolina, what were you getting up to during all of that? You could have been watching, but...
A good question. Let's see, what was I doing? Being distracted by a dog. Let's see. I probably ran into an old bard friend, or at least someone that I knew in passing.
Yeah. This friend was I was actually just briefly considering that being distracted by a dog seems like an entirely legitimate excuse.
Well, I mean, it's valid
for anything,
valid.
really. You know, being late for any sort of activity, being distracted by a dog, and anyway. But yeah, so a bard friend who I think was having some existential artist dread at the time, but running into you helped them to reconnect and ground themselves a little bit. You know, they were feeling the whole imposter syndrome thing. Like,
yes, so I had to re-inspire them.
And so in the process of doing that, you found that the time just flew by. Did you make it back though in time to watch your friends win the trophy, even if you hadn't been along?
Yeah, probably. I caught the tail end of it. It was a bit cringe at the end when they're standing around and everybody's arguing. It's like, just take the trophy and go. This is awkward. But yeah, I saw them take the championship, and yeah, time to celebrate, right?
Well, so that's a good question. I mean, I think that there was a certain big end of festival beach bonfire celebration there on the beach, but I think in the morning it is you had agreed to stay in town to participate in the beach festival, and you did, but now that another morning has come, well, what are you going to do, Pocket Protectors? Don't everybody answer at once.
Did Ivy give her report to the rest of us? I know she spoke to
yes.
Zenhorn.
Well, so I would assume that Zinhorn had passed that on to everybody else. So just to recap, she had said that when asking about this amulet that had been taken from the temple during the original Reclaimers expedition, the answer she was given was that it could not be located, but that they would be working on an alternative. And she confesses to Zinhorn that that felt a little strange to her. Like that was an odd explanation, but she doesn't have any better answer for what's really happening if that's not it. So she has reported to you what they told her.
Hmm.
Her impression was, though, nonetheless, that it was not a question of them not knowing what she was talking about. But so, what does that mean in the longer term? It's hard to say, but you have been told to wait for a prepared alternative.
Well, I guess we wait. I mean, what are we gonna do? Storm the palace? Like,
No. So that means if they're preparing an alternative, oh, that was for the necklace, right?
Yes,
That wasn't for the
the diamond. No.
diamond. So I guess we should be heading toward Emerald Arboris.
Emirate Arboris as being the place that you would like to use to cross over into the Feywild.
Yes.
Okay.
Do
So
we want to let go ahead.
I was just going
Maybe.
to say, before we leave, do we want to get the supplies that we talked about in our group chat before, or do we want to just get them when we get to Emirate Arboris?
We should
Oh,
probably
we're
do that
talking
here. Because if they
Read the
don't
group
have it
chat.
here, then there's always a chance that that we'll get it in Emerald Arboris.
Or we could, get abducted by government officials again. You never know. I just want to know what we're doing before we leave here. Is there anything else that we need to do before we leave?
Well, there's always research, but I don't think that's what you mean.
No. That is so not what I mean.
Talking to Talitha might be a good idea, at least letting her know what our plans are. Although I'm not sure how she'll take the idea if we actually are intending to create some sort of stable gate. On the other hand, she would be the only one who would really understand how well that might or might not work.
True.
have we given any thought to how we might corner her?
Talitha?
No, the witch with the diamond.
Oh,
Not
I really
yet.
don't know much about her, unfortunately. And everything we've heard makes her sound quite clever. And with the ability to see into the near future. The only thing is something she can't turn down.
Well, how did it work? She couldn't see 24 hours past.
that is
Right.
an assumed estimate based on like an approximation. So it's not necessarily like a rigid time. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. And so what you had discussed previously was either something where she sees no better alternative, like nothing she can do will make a difference, or it's something that she would not discover until too late.
Are there any like kind of trap spells that anybody has access to that we could set up at a certain point and then ensure she somehow triggers that trap? Like after that, I don't know. Time is hard.
There are traps and other things that can be done, but she's going to be powerful and she can see them coming. So they'd have to be traps which she can't succeed to escape.
Or we could consider looking into something that would maybe guard us from her ability to see us. Like an
Does it
amulet
work?
or something. Like,
Does it
you
work
know,
like scrying? Because I don't know if it's the same thing.
I don't know.
It seems to be, from the descriptions we've had so far, you can see into your own future, not necessarily scrying somewhere else. So it's centered on her. But if we were to come into her area, she would be able to see us.
Right.
If we could hide ourselves completely and for the entire time, then maybe we could sneak up on her, but that seems
Not just hiding ourselves, I don't think so much as making us undetectable somehow.
Am I imagining us having something capable of casting the gate spell?
We do.
yes. We can. That can be resisted though.
Mm-hmm. What is the thing that lets us cast gate? I'm trying to
Oh,
remember.
the
The,
tablet.
Yes, the Deep Jade tablet that you got
Ooh,
as
right.
part of your trade for the
the
Hollow
thing that's probably
Dragon.
cursed.
Feel fine so far. But yes, that could potentially pull her. But it could be resisted, and she would see it coming. I would
Well,
want
but that
to think.
doesn't really matter when you're talking about the gate spell, I think.
Well, if she can see it coming in a day, she could put herself in a place where the gate can't reach, or possibly give herself some sort of anchor, or come out swinging. It might be easier if we could figure out something that was irresistible to her, something that she wouldn't dare not give up as a chance.
I'm wondering if there's any situation in which I don't know how the diamond works, but maybe something that can block something as powerful as the gate spell could also block the diamond. So, like, say if she's in a room that she can't use the diamond, she might have to leave it outside. You know, does this? I have a line of thought here. I'm
Like
trying
a
to wrap my head around
room
it.
made of Dimiterium. I
Just
mean-
something that would like repel the diamond so she couldn't bring it in there. But if she goes out of there, she gets pulled by the gate spell.
Baldu's quietly scratching his head over the last thing Nedry said, which is so confusing to him that he can't quite remember it. like I know you're talking about like presenting her with something, some kind of offer she can't refuse, but like I'm not saying she is Fae, because we don't know that, but she is in the Fey Wild, which means she's probably one of the trixiest beings we'll ever likely to encounter. So I'm not all for trying to bargain and barter with her, because I am not convinced it won't end up biting us in the backside. That's a lot of B words for Baldu.
What if you, Baldu, went to
Aye.
the big boss lady and asked her if there was a contract on this witch, and then
I mean, yeah,
that would be too
Like-
easy, but
like just because. No, I see where you're going, and it's definitely not the worst plan we've heard. But just because there's a contract out on somebody doesn't mean it's easy to carry through with that contract. But I'll
No, but-
definitely ask, because I mean, she seems like, from reputation alone, she seems like quite
somebody who needs to die.
well, I was going to say unlikable, but we can go with your words.
I mean, there's still the option of just asking her if we can borrow it. Because I mean, I wouldn't want to hang on to something like that, but So
I'm
I
not
would give
sure
it
if
back.
needs. I'm not sure if it needs to be part of the gate, or whether the plans on that are still a little vague.
Or if the gate consumes it after it's been constructed. I mean,
It might not be
maybe it's not
retrievable.
something we will be able to give back to her. Once
So
it's
what I
been
got
used.
the impression of is that this diamond somehow reflects all of the vibrations that are causing the shield to be up. So I don't know that it's going to be consumed. It's sort of like everything is bouncing off of that and making a little hole. It's kind of what it felt like to me.
What if we were to somehow create a lot of these infinitely faceted diamonds so she don't know which one's the real one?
I mean, if we could create one, we wouldn't need this fun.
Well, no, that's a good point, and I think you might be taking my words a little bit too literal. But what if we were to present to her a future when she looks into that, diamond, and she sees that suddenly she has a whole bunch of them, when in reality, I might just be some kind of illusion. I'm not one for magic, so I don't know what's possible and what's not, but then she might be forced to put it into somewhere safe, which we would then know maybe where the whereabouts is, and we could go on a heist.
There's also another problem. Something I'd like to take care of if we were there. And I'm not entirely sure how to do that. It's Yobar's other heart. Well, the other part of it is still there. And I don't really like the idea of leaving it there. Her there.
If we bring it back here, I was under the impression that, like, he'll die.
They'll
I
both
know.
die.
They'll both die if
I
they
know.
are in the same plane.
But that sounds like a problem to be solved, not a declaration of
Ignored.
the impossible.
Right.
I think maybe first, not that I don't want to help, I absolutely do. I've wanted to help since I met him, but maybe we ought to focus on, the world not being destroyed first.
I mean, that seems reasonable, right? At least then they'll have a world in which we can figure out the not dying of those two on the same plane part.
I've been kind of thinking over the problem of her. Well, she collects lost things, right? And she can see the immediate future for herself all the time. So one of the things she can't have is a surprise.
Like a knife through the back, you mean?
Or something nice.
I was thinking a cake, maybe, but
I mean,
Sorry, when yeah, hammers and everything looking like nails and all that.
or the other thing is to give her something in exchange that she wouldn't be able to get otherwise. Something that she wanted to be lost and cannot find. She might need something.
This also goes back to how I mean, maybe we could just talk to her.
we can certainly try.
I mean, I don't get the impression she's a very nice person, but like, just talking.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about Lord Gobert because he's amazing and he's done so much for all of us. But they were trying to steal from her.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that what she did to him was in any way, shape, or form, equal to what they were doing. But, I mean, that doesn't mean that she's a horrible being, but
You're right.
Oh, no.
I know very many victims of crime who put curses on lovers and separate them for all eternity under penalty of death.
you know a lot of them?
Well, no, that was a little bit of sarcasm.
Oh,
Yeah, the punishment seems to far outweigh the crime. So I would rate her definitely as a horrible being.
We do know somebody who knows her a bit more. We could ask them.
Yeah, but
Although
then
it's-
we would probably have to give them something else.
That seems fair exchange.
We don't have any more dragon parts.
Well,
Maybe
I
there's
mean, we
something
do
else.
come across things all the time. Wait, I just had a thought, you guys. So, when it comes to, I'm gonna pull out the Vidunme deck.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to this, I don't really ever know what's gonna come out until it happens. And it's possible she could get trapped in there, but it's possible she couldn't. It's possible something else could jump out of there. We don't know. I don't know if I can actually just like purposely release something.
Well,
Is that- is
also,
that something I
she
can
can
do?
see the future. She can see the future even if you can't.
Well, think about what's in this deck, though. Really, really, really bad things.
Right.
Also,
but what if
and
she
if-
can? What if she
Well-
can see what card you pulled from the deck when you don't even know what card you pulled from the deck, and that would
Well, but
see in
it's
the future.
still
bad.
gonna be really bad. And odds are the stuff in this deck are not good for anybody. Like
But-
there was unkillable
Well,
dragon armor.
could also
if
be.
she-
Either way, it's a win-win for us, is what I'm
But
saying.
but no, but it might not be, because if she knows what's coming, she might find a way to turn it on us.
Nedry, make an Arcana check.
All right. Only a 14.
Okay. You know that of all of the arcane disciplines, divination is kind of the most squirrely, right? Because there's so many different things that can influence it, and even the spells that do seem to kind of fortune tell are often like vague, right? And this diamond that she's got seems like it's very powerful, but it's also part of its power comes from being so specific. Like it tells, it allows its user to essentially extrapolate forward for various decisions they might make, right? Especially given how squirrely divination can be, it's not actually clear to you how it might interact with other forms of divination magic, such as a Vidunme deck, which is used like, tarot in our world and has its own powerful magic properties. You don't know how those two things would interact.
One of the possibilities is too many possibilities. If the crystal shows her every possible thing that could be happening at that moment, then what if there are too many things for her to count on? And none of them seem any more plausible than the other. What if
So, like, overload her ability to see, throws so many possibilities at her that she can't digest it in 24 hours.
Sometimes a little chaos is fun. Not always.
starting to appreciate that a bit more?
What do we think? Maybe it could work? I mean, I'm all for going to talk to her first.
I always want to find out more information before acting.
Mm-hmm. And like she knows that we have the thing. Well, she will know, maybe. Depending on how it shakes out. I don't know. But if we approach her and she knows that we have this thing, then she knows there's so many different possibilities that she might not be able to prepare for them all.
I could
Either
prepare a list
way-
of questions.
If she somehow is able to defeat whatever it is that comes out of this deck, I mean, I can't really control the thing, but I mean, usually they just, in my experience so far, they just like kill everything. So, we introduce this chaotic, unknowable, maybe question mark thing, and she might not have any recourse. She just doesn't want to face it, and so she just let us borrow the thing. We could give it back. I'm not trying to steal anything. I don't think any of you are either.
I am not above stealing it. I also don't necessarily know that it's time to take, maybe extremes off the table, such as, you know,
It sounds like the world would be a better place, or the many planes would be a better place without her in it.
I wonder if
You don't know that.
No, I don't.
Balance is important. I would think a cleric of Rushama would know that.
if only
Yes,
we had
but-
like a crystal ball we could look at and see if that would make sense. If the world would be a better place without her in.
There's only so much we can prepare for. And I think this is as good of an idea as any.
technically she's not part of this world, but I wonder if the amulet ended up there. The amulet was lost, right?
Mm,
This is a place where
Was
lost
it?
things sometimes end up. There's an interesting sort of magic to follow there. Another research project.
so are we going to Emerald Arboris then? Was that the plan?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was. We kind of went on a tangent without resolving exactly what your plan was for how to get there. To be sure, Sonia can fly there, but it will take a while. The other potential options might be to take the lightning rail into Pashan and then use the teleportation circle there to the one in Emerald Arboris. Or some combination of those things, or anything else you might have in mind.
Well, traveling to Emerald Arboris, I mean, it's a hub for people all over the different planes. So there's all kinds of stuff you can get there. And maybe in traveling there, we can plan for what we need. It would give us that opportunity.
The one thing we have to make sure that we're sure of is being sure of things. That's pretty important.
Nedry,
Well,
I think you need to make up a list of questions that all have sub questions, and then be prepared to roll a die when we get there to randomly choose what questions you're going to ask.
Hmm.
And just go full Nedry on her, asking as many questions as possible.
That would be easier if there was more of me, though. I haven't figured that part out yet.
Oh, I don't know if we could handle so many.
It
You
would
have
be
enough
extraordinarily
questions
useful.
for like 50 people.
Well, the thing is, that only guarantees that I don't know what the questions are. It doesn't guarantee that she knows, or she doesn't. It would have to be sort of, somehow asking all the questions at once.
I will request once again before we go down that rabbit hole to go ahead and make a call as to how you want to try to get to Emerald Arboris. Just because then we can say all the rest of this conversation is happening in the meantime.
Take the castle.
Lightning rail? It's faster. Although I do need to pick up a diamond that's worth 500 gold pieces.
We can probably get diamonds in Emerald Arboris,
You can
Okay.
get everything there.
but before we make this decision, are we going to talk to Talitha before we go?
We should.
Yeah, I think we really should. Anyone?
I think so. You know what? I just thought of something that I had thought that that was what I was going to go do while I was gone, but oh well. Too late now.
Okay.
You could probably retcon it.
Nah.
Okay.
I mean, I can't rule on an idea that I don't know, but
No, it was something that I'd actually thought of weeks ago
Oh,
to
okay.
do during the downtime, but no. Just proceed.
well, if you were gonna just fly Sunya all the way there, that's gonna take a week and change. So you would have downtime that way too, and you would be passing by Pashan on the way.
Or do we want to have Sunya take us to Pashan and then get the lightning rail from there?
No, the lightning rail goes between Emersham and Pashan, but
Hmm.
from Pashan to Emerald Arboris, you can take the teleportation circle.
Okay. So we
So-
could go with Sunya to Pashan and then take the teleportation circle.
Or,
Mhm.
I mean, theoretically, you could fly Sunya all the way there, but again, that just takes longer.
So what if we as a group could take the lightning rail, go down to Pashan, and then take the teleportation circle to Emerald Arboris, and in the meantime, Sunya can make her way there so that she's there when we get back.
Well, where we come back is kind of up to us,
Questionable.
depending on what we're using. Well, with the gate spell, I should be able to target where I want it to be. I haven't cast it before, so I don't really know. I could practice, I suppose. It does go to some interesting places. We could postpone this adventure for a long time. Look, I've got a room full of doors. Why don't we try opening all of them?
Why don't we go see Tilitha?
Right.
It's the
We
first
should-
box to check.
Are you planning to go all the way back in there as opposed to like the sending or something?
We could
Did
do
this-
sending.
We did verify that sending works through the
Yeah.
dimensional
Mhm.
what's it's
Yeah.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's like only one person gets to have that conversation, and I feel like
It's true. Although I just, I mean, it just because we kind of hand waved it coming back out doesn't mean it's trivial to get back in there. But you do know the way. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not telling you not. I'm just saying that that's another day's excursion, not just a pop over for 10 minutes.
I mean, it's up to you guys. I know that we were sort of on the fence about telling her about this gate in the first place, but even if we just send her a message to let her know that we're gonna be gone for a little bit,
I don't like the idea of hiding things from her, though.
I don't either.
And she might have some insight onto the artifacts that we're looking for.
Mhm.
Yes. So
And if she's opposed to it, well, I mean, she can't really stop us. And the worst off that will be is that she won't tell us anything. But that doesn't seem like it would really be in her best interest. Because we want to help and we want to do the right thing. And she knows this current state she's in is not sustainable. So something has to change.
Can we be walking while we have this
I
conversation?
mean, you tell me where you're walking to, and that's
Yeah.
absolutely fine.
Oh,
To- to the temple, or
we
we're
could fly the
flying?
castle to by the temple.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're
Okay.
going to the
We're just pacing the castle at this point.
sure. You got
Okay.
it on a string, walking along the ground and just pulling it on like a
I
balloon.
didn't say walking the castle. Got to get rid of the castle refuse at some point, I suppose. Find a bush.
Yeah. So I mean, if that's the plan, you guys can absolutely make a return expedition.
I think we should also make one more check of any protections we want to
Uh-huh.
leave behind.
Yes. Do you want
Just
me
because,
to prepare stone shape again?
well, then I can prepare a few traps. I mean, It's going to be back.
I
You
know.
that.
Well, I'm just trying to plan out what I need to take for the day, so I'll add stone shape just in case.
Okay.
All right, so fly back over to the site of the Temple of Marushka, and once you arrive, you of course you go in through that big main entrance, and then reminding my own map here, the and then heading through like the catacombs area, and then the looted tombs area, and the maze area, and the caverns area where you fought the worm, and then finally through that area which is all about the instructions and warnings. And everything seems to be as you left it as you get back to the area where you can summon the Fractine. And I assume you go ahead and do that. All right.
Osmer is just kind of wide-eyed as it's the first time he's been here.
Ah, yes. So certainly you have, just been fast walked through an already cleared mega dungeon. I guess it's not a mega dungeon, it's a regular dungeon. It's a big one, but, mega dungeon kind of implies more, I think. Anyway, you've now just been told that it's okay to step into this magic two-dimensional window, at which point you are going to be zipped through an incredibly narrow little space through an enormous wall into a vault where, once again, you see this enormous throne chamber that seems to have been breached by some sort of extra dimensional magic that is swirling all around. And you see multiple thrones, all empty save one, in which an elderly and frail looking woman sits in the center. Ah, you have returned. Is there news or a plan?
Sort of. I'm trying to remember if she knew Isilda, but we think that she might be one of the descendants
Hestia's.
of Hestia's,
So-
right?
I believe she did not know, but speculated that she would be a descendant of Hestia's.
I was given a message from Isilda, and she sort of laid out this plan that she'd come up with for creating a small disruption in this shield in order to get some people out and away from Dinethere. We know this situation isn't tenable. It's the best option that we currently have. I didn't want to keep it from you. It involves a infinitely faceted diamond, a star-shaped pendant, and an immovable platform of some kind in the ocean.
The star-shaped pendant taken from the temple here.
That would be it, yes.
That is a powerful artifact which can extend the lives of mortal creatures indefinitely and stave off disease. But it can come at a cost which is dependent on the wielder. I don't know how it would function with such a diamond, but as I told you before, When I and my companions thought of this plan, we knew of no better. And yet, it is in the process of failing. And so, as wary as I am to consider even a small breach in the containment, I don't have a better solution. However, what I would suggest is that creating an opening in the shield without completely removing it is not a solution. It is perhaps a tool by which a solution may be enacted, but it is not in and of itself a plan.
Well, another step that might occur from that, if this opening were to be achieved, it would release more of your people. And if that's the case, there may be more who can sit on those thrones.
It is true that Hestia's principal objection to our course of action may well have been passed on to others, which is to say, that as dangerous as those in power in Dinuther were, as grand as their ambitions, it is true that there were many innocents as well, people who did not deserve to be locked in with such as those who would control the world. And yet, we did not know another way.
How
We saw it as
many-
a tragedy, and so a method of allowing their escape I once would have called foolhardy because it risks so much, but that the escape of those in charge there is inevitable without some other path.
So, would you know how many of those people in charge we're talking about? Like, is this a king that's, lording over everyone? Is it a select group of people?
There was a ruling council that was in charge when we left, but time will have passed. I do not know what structure Dinuther might currently take within the bubble.
I don't like that this bubble has to exist. I understand why it was necessary. But I think in the time that it will take us to gather all of these pieces, I'm hoping we can think of another solution for this problem that involves these tools that we're seeking out.
Truly, I hope that you, all of you, and any allies that you might enlist in this effort will be capable of finding a solution that I and my companions could not.
Regarding the pendant, you said it can have certain effects depending on who wields it.
Yes.
Could you specify a little bit?
The most common effect of that pendant is that it prolongs the life of those who wear it by drawing energy from others. But this effect has been malleable based on the will of the user and how they choose to use it, because the effect is not a passive one that happens automatically. It is done at the will of he who wears it, or she. And so it has happened in its history that the energy is drawn from high emotion used to calm those who may be distressed. And that is perhaps the most benevolent possible of its uses. It has been used to draw just a little, so little that it might not even be missed from large numbers of people. It has also been used to steal the life force entirely from an individual at the will of those who wear it. In many respects, it is almost a distillation of the way that Denetherian magic has a cost that must be paid, and that cost can be passed to another against their will. But it is the will of the person who wears it that chooses what form that price will take. Do you know where it is now?
We know where it was.
There are some supporters who claim they might be able to create another one, which seems unlikely.
I believe the words were an alternative.
Right.
I don't think I like the sound of that, but
There have been, of course, across history, many attempts to create the effect that this necklace has, prolonging the life of the target of such magic. And so I don't doubt that there may be other methods which might seem to mimic the power.
Could it be that ability to draw from a lot of people a little bit of power and concentrate it, which would be the reason it might be part of this device?
It may be. I believe I may have an inkling as to the theory behind these two ingredients. The bubble itself is it consists of rapidly fluctuating arcane energies. And that energy might be diverted or redirected or transformed if it was ever stable enough to be interfaced with, but it changes too rapidly. And so it may be that with a divination magic powerful enough and the ability to control energy, it may be that that is what would allow a small area of the field to be drained, if only temporarily. I would worry in such a case that creating a tunnel would allow entrance or exit, and as much as it is desirable to see that innocents might escape while the guilty remain imprisoned, it would simply creating an opening does not distinguish the innocent from the guilty, nor allow the movement of one and the prohibition of another.
We need a filter. Did you create the curses that are on the things that were stolen?
The curses are not deliberate, but rather one of the forms that the magic can take when the price of such magic is redirected. As you may recall from the plaques on the pedestals where those artifacts once stood, the intent of displaying them and explaining was to show how this magic goes wrong when it is abused. And frequently, what happens is you achieve a magic power at a cost. And you may recall when you were going through that area, you found like all these pedestals that were intended to be like, here is an example of an artifact that was imbued with this power, but it does this also.
Two things. One, a more memory thing. Was there a pedestal which would correspond to the Midnight Stone tablet?
You don't remember seeing one like that.
Okay. But he'll look on the way out just to make sure,
Sure,
double
sure.
check. But
Yeah, you don't think there was.
okay. And
But I think if you, I think that there was a lot going on. But yeah, you don't think there was, but it may also just be that like those were intended as examples. It doesn't mean they're the only ones.
right. They're the only ones we know were placed somewhere. But yeah. And the other is a question for Talitha.
So, the curse energy, for lack of a more sophisticated term, if it were to be concentrated in, say, an individual and sort of become over time more powerful than the individual, would it have its own force of being? Or would it be like an untended fire and just burn uncontrollably? Asking for a friend. Well, more of an adversary.
I feel as though you are edging around the real question.
Well, I'm still struggling to understand exactly what is going on with someone we have called the adversary, but they've concentrated a number of these curses into themselves. And at first it seemed only a danger to themselves, but now I'm starting to wonder if it's more dangerous. They're caught now within the vortex of numerous curses, somewhere, not exactly sure where, possibly on the plane of dream or a demi-plane of nightmare. It's a little bit ambiguous.
It is true that Denutherian magic draws its energy from the plane of dream. And what we think of as pleasant dreams or nightmares are distant reflections of that energy. But there are creatures there. Things very much like the spirits that we know in the material plane, but of a different logic, of a different nature. And the Denutherian curses or the side effects of the abuse of that magic are typically not imbued with a will of their own. They can shape and distort the will of those who are afflicted by them, but not through a conscious will, but rather the way that a magnet might distort a compass. However, if this person is not merely cursed, but inhabited, hosting, or possessed by these nightmare creatures in some way, that might be a different matter that could present in such the same way. But do you ask if someone merely could be possessed or corrupted by nightmares, or
Well, we've seen evidence of that, so we're fairly
Indeed.
comfortable. No, it's more that I'm concerned that this might be a wildfire burning out of control and that it could be dangerous. I'm also concerned that the concentration of that much power in one place could pose as a tool for those who would do more harm. I'm wondering whether we should try to engage that, either to rescue the adversary at the center of the problem, or to try to destroy whatever that energy is. Seems much larger and much more powerful than any nightmare we faced.
when a single individual interfaces with nightmare entities, entities from the plane of dream drawn through to the material plane and then trapped here in a fashion. This is something that is generally self limiting in the sense that after a certain amount of this energy, there is a element of self destruction or just it burns itself out, so to speak. However, there have occasionally been those who theorized that if the effects of multiple nightmare creatures could be balanced against one another in some way, that it could potentially create a semi-stable equilibrium quite different from what the original individual was like. It's almost as though if the person is a doorway and too many monsters at once are trying to crowd through that doorway, they all kind of get stuck.
Hmm.
It is a theoretical principle that I have never seen executed in any kind of a stable way, but it was something that people experimented with. But you believe that this individual may have been trapped in the plane of dreams somehow?
Well, that's where we encountered him again.
There's
We'd been in the mortal plane or the material plane before, taking these cursed items into himself.
I cannot tell you much more except that I would imagine such an individual to be both unpredictable and highly dangerous. And
That's accurate.
certainly our knowledge of the plane of dream comes primarily from drawing things and ideas and entities from there to here for study. There's been relatively little exploration in the other direction. Those who do venture there generally do not return in a way that is educational for those who remain.
Well, maybe I'm just delaying the inevitable. But I have more questions. I will return.
If any of my former colleagues could be persuaded to return here, that would help me. But I can hold on for a while. I have been here for quite a long time. I'm not going to drop any day now. But it is a burden. And if you find that you are able to create this door, and in Dinuther can find people who would be willing to aid with keeping up this shield, that would be welcome as well. But as we've discussed, if there was a way to save the rest of the world without requiring us to seal away a place that I once held dear, That would be the best of all worlds. I simply do not know how it would be accomplished.
It's a project. It's not quite finished.
It is the nature of the pillar that its energies are at once powerful enough to accomplish virtually any desire and yet subject to the uncontrollable and fickle subconscious desires of mortal creatures such as we. But all Denutherian magic springs from it. If there is another power to rival it, I would imagine it must come from another Titan.
That would be interesting.
Wasn't there a Titan we were going to try and wake up?
There was supposedly a rumored Titan down in the moon shadowed sea where the Lady Despair is, but that's kind of more rumor than firsthand knowledge.
Would
Oh.
certainly distract the Lady Despair while we stole her rock. Just thinking out loud.
Talitha says, I can't actually help you with that one. I don't have any knowledge of that Titan or individual. I've not been out in a while. That's a joke. You can laugh. It's all right. Well, I guess my sense of humor has suffered as well.
Too many things to think about. Sorry.
In any case, I have found myself at the end of the very long rope that I created once upon a time, and I can only hope that another solution can be found. But if you all are the people who I have seen defeat other challenges, I hope that you can find a way. And then she looks over at you, Baldur, and says, "You, I don't know. You weren't with them before. Are you new?" You're
He's
muted, I
muted.
think.
Hello. Check.
There you are.
Yes. I'm new to the group, but I myself am not new. You might say. Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome, I guess. I'm Talitha.
Nice to meet you. You can call me Baldo. I guess, because like that's my name. And yeah.
We should probably write an introductory manual for any more people we bring on board.
She's a assassin from the Mistress of the Dark. This is what I'm told. It's really
I mean, assassin, right? It's like, yeah, sure, it is what I do, but it's not who I am. Like, I'm really an acolyte, and it's just
He's like a priest.
yeah, basically.
If I may, who do you refer to as the Mistress of the Dark?
Well, I mean, like, I wouldn't exactly say we're on a first name basis because,
she's the goddess of death.
well, I mean, that's
What?
like an oversimplification.
Hmm.
There's so much more than that.
But yeah,
Yes.
sure. I mean, if we want to keep things simple, then yeah, she's she oversees the passing from life into death, passing beyond the veil, and she's not too keen when people cheat death. So like, because we're all do what's owed to us, and you know all of that. Um, and yeah, so yeah,
He's kind of like a debt collector, I guess.
yeah. I mean,
Do they dwell within the Shadowfell?
Hmm.
I mean, dwell, rule over, preside
Yes.
therein. Yes,
Interesting.
apparently.
It would seem that there's been a change in leadership there since I last was aware.
Oh, that's
Really?
interesting.
Who was the boss when you were there?
They were simply called death.
Hmm.
I mean,
Well, I mean, it could be something like what happened with Empress Salomonia.
Or maybe Death was like, you know what? I'm tired. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go.
I
I should
mean,
go.
I think it's probably more, could be, I'm not saying this for definite, but it could be, you know, like when you're a kid, like very young, and they call you a baby, and then you grow up and your friends give you a nickname, and then you grow up some more and you fall in love, and your sweetie gives you like a different pet name, and then you might have kids and they call you dad or mom or whatever. And like throughout your life, you really like you have one name, but you have multiple names, right? Depending on who's asking. So maybe it's like Death was her name at one point, but maybe she's outgrown it. I don't know.
Night. Like for the DM,
Mm-hmm.
when I did all that research when we were on the book ship,
Mm-hmm.
did I read anything about like how she rose to power or anything like that?
Um, I'll be honest. I don't 100% remember what details I might have given you specifically then.
It was mostly like origins and how people um like react to her
Yeah,
or
I
their
think
different
that there's certainly
experiences.
yeah. So I think what you recall is that like what a lot of what you read is how like there is kind of this expectation that the goddess of death, of of the Shadowfell and all of that is kind of a darker, more sinister thing, but that it is, the Mistress of the Dark isn't really quite that. But you recall now, thinking about it, that in some respects the idea that the person holding that position, the entity in charge of those things, might have used to been more like that, thus leading to that impression. And perhaps the change isn't the change of heart of some eternal entity as much as someone else has taken over. That idea puts into context some things that you had read that, like, maybe that might have been one way to interpret some of that stuff. But what Talitha just says then is, I have no first-hand knowledge of this, but the ascension, the apotheosis of a mortal creature, there have been many who have theorized that it would be possible to grow to that level of power. And I know there are those who sought to make death something less fearsome.
I mean, it's a peaceful thing, and a lot of people fear it, but that's not, what we share.
This is something that, it seems to me, must be between you and your deity. Although, as an outsider to that faith, and someone whose own perspective comes from deep within the past, but perhaps beyond the reach of reshaped history, I wonder if your current mistress always held that position.
Oh, I mean, I don't really know. And she's not really big on talking about it. So
I've never asked her. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe next time I talk to her, I'll ask her, but I don't know what she will say.
Once again, this
seem a
is
little
not
rude.
something I know but only suspect, but I certainly see the reason in if a mortal creature were to ascend in such a way, they would not be eager to share the how-to manual.
Mhm. I totally get that.
But again, I feel that this would most appropriately be a conversation for you to have with your deity. I am merely an outsider offering a perspective.
Thank you.
Oi, so you visited the Shadowfell?
Not personally.
Oh.
I was aware of its presence. It, after all, underpins the material plane in the same way that the Feywild does.
Sure.
Overlaps in a way that is difficult to comprehend in non-arcane terms.
No, I get it. I bounce around a lot between the two.
Perhaps planar geography is more well taught now than it was once.
Oh no, I doubt that. It's just like sometimes I get sent here, sometimes I get sent there, sometimes I get sent to other. And yeah, so it's weird seeing places in the same place in all three places because they're all the same and different all at the same time. That's odd. At this point, I'll don my what do they call the pan-dimensional gloves that I have,
Okay.
and just like reach through into whatever. Like I can't see, I can only like put my hand through into whatever dimension is adjacent, right? So
Okay. Well, so I'm trying to think. So, for some perspective, what you currently would perceive in your own immediate surroundings is that you're kind of inside a hollow glass cube.
mhm.
But that cube within the larger space is two-dimensional, like Phantom Zone from Superman, you know?
Okay.
Where it feels three-dimensional to you inside that little pocket dimension, but one of the walls of this cube is like a window you're looking through, but from outside, it's just that window, and it's only two-dimensional.
Okay.
And so theoretically, it's like a pocket dimension within the larger dimension, and so your extra dimensional glove is really kind of more designed to phase through matter.
Right.
I think you are not necessarily sure what would happen if you used it to try to reach outside of a pocket dimension into the rest of a dimension of this nature. It's not automatically a bad thing, but it's not really what it's designed for.
Well, one way to find out what would happen.
Okay. So I guess tell me what it is that you are hoping for.
I just to grab something from a different dimension, pull it back through, and you know, present it, whatever that thing might be. If it's
Okay. So I guess the question is, you're trying to reach outside of the little two-dimensional space you're in into
Yes.
the rest of the three-dimensional space that's around it, or trying to reach into like the Shadowfell or something.
Let's go with Shadowfell.
Okay. So what I'll say is the item is not designed for that, but it's cool. So I'm not saying no. I'm just trying to think how to interpret this mechanic. How about this? I know. Roll roll a d20 or roll an Arcana check if you have it, and a percentile dice, please.
Okay. So I have no proficiency in Arcana, so this will be fun.
All right.
So that's a 12 on the Arcana. It's not bad.
Okay.
And the percentile dice is a 74.
Okay. Give me just a moment. So I think. Okay. So I think that as you tell me what you are doing with your glove to try to make this occur. Is because I'm guessing this is something that it has not been used for previously, and you've suddenly kind of intuited that this might be possible.
Right. So the whole thinking was to just grab something completely mundane from a different dimension and present it as a gift.
Okay.
You know, whether it's a piece of grass from the Shadowfell or whatever it might be. In terms of, I'm going to say the mechanics, because not the rolling dice side of things, but you know, sliding the glove on and feeling its arcane power surge across my hands and just, you know, try to sort of push through the opening that is presented, assuming it would go to the Shadowfell, because that's where it's either usually
you're kind of focusing on the Shadowfell.
Well, typically when it would be used, right, would be either I was on the mortal plane, like prime material plane, and went through to the Shadowfell, or I was on Shadowfell and went through to the material plane.
Okay.
Haven't been in
So,
two-dimensional.
Traditionally, the use of that item is actually things like reaching through a solid wall or something. But that's all right. No, I like this. I think it's cool. I'm just trying to figure it out. Okay, so I think what happens is you sort of slip your hand through, and I think it's not really been used quite this way before, and there's a lot of powerful magic surrounding you right now. And I think that you take 6 cold damage as your hand suddenly kind of feels like frozen reaching through. But you do find your hand sort of grasping something, and you slip your hand back through, and you're holding a small white gourd, like about 6 inches in diameter, that has been carved with like a jack-o'-lantern face, and something is causing it to glow with a flickering flame from inside.
All right, and I present this.
So once again, you would have to try to reach through out of the 2-dimensional space, because Tilitha is not in this 2-dimensional space with her.
Okay.
You use this 2-dimensional thing to visit a place that is otherwise unsafe for you to go.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but you can use it for that purpose.
Yeah. I will try at least.
I think Tilitha looks alarmed because you are clearly doing weird magic stuff in a dangerous environment. However, I think it works because I like it. And so as you hold it through, she is looking like she reaches out to take it, but she's looking at your hand worried like something's going to happen to it.
I mean, sometimes things only seem impossible because everybody knows that they are impossible. And when you get somebody who doesn't know that it's impossible, that's when the impossible is possible.
Yes, I'll
think.
consider the implications of that as soon as you pull your hand back in. I'm worried that something's going to just shear it off at any moment.
Right you are, and I'll set the gourd down and draw my hand back in and slip the glove off.
And I think she does pick up the little gourd and just kind of look at it, kind of just marvel at it for a moment and says, "You know, I really am. I would not have thought it was possible to do what you just did."
Well, that's what I was saying. If you think it's not possible, it's not possible. But if you don't know that it's not possible, then it might be possible. I think I just proved that.
Indeed, and I don't know that that means that you will all be successful, but at the same time, it just goes to show that sometimes we rule out options as impossible simply because we doubt our ability to carry them out. We chose this path of sealing Dinuthera away forever because we did not see another option. But maybe there are some that we did not consider or give enough weight because simply our imaginations or our daring was lacking.
There's a strange and terrible logic to this. I'm not sure I like it, but it might be effective.
Well, I wish you all luck, and that whatever it is that you find in your attempts to solve this problem lead to a world better than the one we have now.
We'll do what we can.
Within my limitations, I will attempt to aid you in any way that I can. I once thought that there was very little that I could do save sit in a seat, but now I wonder. She kind of looks at the gourd again. She sets it on the arm and then turns it so that the face is facing out. Right. So, did you have any other questions for her, or?
Nope.
Millions. But there's never enough time.
I will reinforce, make another panel of wall in that tunnel to kind of slow down any more progression before we leave.
Sure. So, as with the last time, it takes a little while because what your spell is able to do is take a bunch of loose stone and make it into like solid wall, but it still takes a little while for you all to like gather enough loose stone to make up that shape. But the more you work at it, excuse me, the more reinforced it is. And do you recall what check I had you do last time to try to make it look natural rather than patched?
Wasn't it like a nature?
I was thinking it was
or
something more
something?
like sleight of hand or arcana or something like that, just to kind of
I can do Arcana.
yeah, how about that? Go ahead and do arcana to try to make your reinforced wall look like the regular dungeon wall rather than a weird magic sagging thing. Yeah, I think that's better.
15.
I think if someone was looking through the wall carefully, they might find the seams a little bit, you know, of where there was a patch job put in here, but it's not just this obvious sort of blobby bulge on the wall anymore.
Good.
I think I can help.
There's a question here about so Nedry will start to trace out with I think it's diamond dust in front of the same spot,
Okay.
specifically targeting where someone would have to look to see the seam,
Okay.
and he's going to start tracing out a glyph of warding.
Oh, okay.
And I can insert a spell into glyph of warding,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a spell that requires concentration, and I don't know if that works for this context.
What spell are you thinking?
Banishment.
Hmm.
And the glyph of warding should specifically target um, Tanglefoot's people.
Yeah, yeah. No, I, hmm. I like that. I'm trying to just think how, because I don't want to just automatically say that using this spell in that way will bypass the need to keep concentrating on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, uh,
If that can't be done,
When it's triggered, like somehow you can sense it. So you know it's going to happen at the most inconvenient time.
yeah, halfway around the world, I'm flying, and suddenly, oh shit, I got to concentrate on something else. Ah!
that is kind of a funny idea that just like suddenly you'll be in the middle of doing something else and I'll say, "Oh, you're concentrating on a spell right now."
Yeah,
And no
it
matter what
weirdly
else
is
you're
also
doing.
it's also weirdly an alarm bell that goes off. It's like,
Mhm.
oh wait, I know they're there.
Hmm.
If not, if he can't figure out an arcanic way to do that, he would.
How about okay, how about this? Make an arcana check.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Mhm.
Pretty good. 27.
That's pretty good. I think that you, with your magic insights and all of the things that you've been learning about all these different unusual, non-traditional schools of magic and ancient Dunutherian magic, and just your experience as a wizard in the field has allowed you in this case to instill this glyph of warding with a spell that might not normally work with such a contraption. And you think it's possible that there may be some sort of a rebound effect on you when it triggers, but that it should be able to, to work in the way you're hoping.
So, there is a keyword. The keyword is, oh, geez, I'm always bad at keywords. Anybody have a suggestion for a
It was your idea to come up
keyword?
with one.
Anybody have a safe word that they would like to suggest? Mine's sometimes esoteric.
I would suggest. So is this intended to be something that we would say to disarm this?
No, it just wouldn't affect us. It shouldn't affect us anyway because it's triggered based on, well, the aberrant type of thing that Tanglefoot is. But just in case one of us happens to come down with that terrible condition, it would be good to have a backup.
Chicken
So
butt.
I was thinking something that might be anathema to them. There's a word.
Oh,
Or just chicken butt.
Happiness.
I like
Or
chicken butt,
it's the
but
law.
it's the law.
certainty.
Yeah, I think why not? Certainty,
All right.
because they are chaos creatures.
So the intended effect is that if Tanglefoot or one of the other of his kind come to this place to look, they'll be dissuaded from staying on this plane. Hopefully pushed back to whatever plane is native to them, which I'm not exactly sure where that is. I guess the plane of chaos, if I was taking a stab. And it should at least delay them for a time. I could have just made it explode, but that seemed a little bit, I don't know, on the nose.
I think based on your experience with these creatures, it would probably be inadequate to destroy them entirely.
And
Like-
it would damage the wall.
Yeah.
So like it would injure whoever set it off, but then they might just survive and continue anyway if it was exploding.
Although in that case, I'd want to make it obvious and then make a whole bunch of them. And then maybe a second one that does explode.
Well, I mean, that's
Maybe
always
next
an
time.
option
Well, I
too.
mean, this is
it
like
just costs
the-
more to use the glyph of warding multiple times.
Yeah,
It's like the second or third layer of wall that we've added. So they
At
might
the very
be,
least, hopefully it'll be dissuading for a time.
that's what I mean. Like they might be hesitant to go to the next one because what
Mhm.
if it does that again or it's worse?
Meanwhile, while all the magic users have been doing this
Mm-hmm.
and debating this,
Yeah.
on the opposite side, I have been carefully etching the outlines of a door with a
Okay.
tip of a dagger,
Yeah.
and then like smudging it so it looks like somebody's tried to cover it up.
Uh-huh. Nice. Okay. Cool. Um,
But if they don't know it's not a door, couldn't they just open it?
Well, that's entirely possible, but even if they do manage to
they
open
might
it,
waste some time trying to open a secret door that's not really there.
My
or
God,
even if it
though,
is there, it ain't going where they want it to go.
what if they use the knock spell on it and it opened?
Well, as far as you
Well-
know, it's just solid rock past the wall.
Hmm?
When is a door not actually a door?
When it's a rock.
When it's a jar.
Non-traditional answer, but like, hey, I like it. When it's a door, not a door. When it's a rock. Mhm. Yeah, I like that. You don't even have to roll for that. I just think that's cool. Okay, so do you all make your way back out through the temple?
Yep.
I think that as you are emerging from the front entrance, you see it's a little bit of an odd sight because it's certainly not any kind of a normal weather pattern, but you see just on the horizon of the ocean as you emerge from the temple and see out towards the beach, you see there's clear, maybe a little bit cloudy skies there, but then just as you watch, there's suddenly a little storm head and the lightning, and then disappears again.
Weird.
Well, that's not ominous or anything.
I'm gonna dip back into the temple real quick and leave a little offering for Marushka.
Yeah. What do you leave?
I will leave
The
her
holy gourd.
Wow. I don't really have a lot. I could leave her some nice manacles.
Deep
Like,
in from
if
the
anybody
heart.
ever tries to imprison you again, we prison them back. Yeah, that's totally what I'm doing. And I say that as I leave them. You are unchained. Yeah. She can take that however she wants.
All right. So I think as you come back out, you don't see any sort of storm cloud. But I think as you're coming through, there is a sudden gust of wind that kind of just blows sand in your face. But there's no more storm cloud though.
Oh, she's something. So are we going to take the lightning rail back to Pashan?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I'll be right back.
Do we
Sure.
need to have we gotten any like provisions or anything from Lord Yobert since we've been back? Like, has he given us our paychecks or
Oh, well,
anything?
so I mean, we've kind of been treating that as like as in terms of like ordinary sort of like buying food and that sort of thing. Like, I mean, all of that's kind of just been covered. But like, were you thinking you wanted to like buy some more stuff?
Like I know Zinhorn wanted to get some more diamonds because he
Mhm.
used his to revivify Evan
Right, yeah.
and stuff. So, just little things like that. I mean,
Well,
they
so
cost
I get
money,
this.
so.
This is a game mechanics question that I would like to ask you all. I mean, the truth is that we really in this campaign haven't used gold that much, right?
Mm-mm.
And honestly, that's fine with me. But I am also happy if you guys would really rather that we keep actual careful track of how much gold you're entitled to, and then really dispense it out, and then you go and buy things and you mark off that much gold. We can do that if that's what you guys would like. But if you're really just sort of feeling like we want to pick up some stuff, then I'm kind of not too worried about that. You have a wealthy patron.
Okay. I mean, could it
That
just
one.
be that like wherever we go, he has like a place? And
Yeah,
it's
well,
like,
so I guess
there's
bank
I guess
account.
what I'm putting it down is like if it's within reason, I think he just takes care of it.
okay.
If
Send in the
it's
invoice.
more intense, like if you were wanting to buy a magic item or something that was really really expensive, we might talk more about that. But
Okay.
but I
There's
think
this
if you're-
magic silver card he gave us, and when we tap it appropriately, gold just flows out of it.
yeah.
And
So that's kind of what I was thinking, just because personally, I'm not really very interested in the accounting of it.
in accounting.
But that said, I don't want to deprive you all of something if it was part of what you were wanting. But if the simple answer is you just in the fiction want to have some more specific things,
Mhm.
then I think we can just say you make a point of going to get that, and as long as you kind of have access to Lord Yobert, he can just take care of that stuff. But like certainly, it would be a little different if you were somewhere where that was not true.
Okay. Well, I mean, I just wondered because I know we were gonna go to get supplies when we get to Emirate Arboris, so I don't know.
All right. So, question: as far as your trip, I mean, we can like this. This is another question that's just in the meta a little bit, because we've been in Emersham for a little while, and I know that you know, Emirate Arboris is a place that you might want to hang out in a little bit. Even as it's just a way to get to the Feywild. But I guess the question is, how interested are you in actually sort of role playing and working out and maybe even having encounters on the way? Like if you're taking the lightning rail and then you're in Pashan for a while and you go to the teleportation circle. Or we could just kind of say, we montage the next couple of days and now you're in Emirate Arboris. We could do that. So I guess I'm asking what you all would prefer in that regard. Because if you're really feeling like I want to just stay in the moment to moment adventure, that works. If you would also just rather go ahead and get there, that works too.
I think we've spent several weeks just doing the moment to moment stuff. So like I think it's
Yeah.
time to
That'd be
to
a thing where we
hop
end up
forward
like
a little bit.
we'd end up in like a dragon cave somewhere.
We'd
because
never get
we're
to
so
Pashan.
bad at
It
going
does
to where we're
that
supposed
does
to be.
tend to be how it goes because
We will real time play out a train ride that takes 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, but it would take us like 3 months.
well, I mean that's just how it goes because generally speaking, what happens is that if we're role playing it out, we want something to happen, so I come up with something to have happen, and then you deal with that, and then that maybe sends you off on a sidetrack, and to some extent that's just the game we're playing, right? But if what you would all kind of rather is to just say, and then you traveled to Emirate Arboris, and then ta-da, look, you made it! What a trip that was!
The only thing that I would even want to try to achieve over that time period, like while we're traveling, is I actually want to talk to Baldu about those weird gloves and going to the Shadowfell. But I would do it in private.
Okay.
So Nedry, you'll have to
how
ask him
about
too.
this?
Well, Nedry would want to ask him about those gloves too, because that's a very.
So how
useful
about
thing.
this? Let's treat it kind of like another week of downtime in the sense that any scenes that you all want to have that would be occurring during the trip, we can absolutely do. And we can also maybe talk a little bit about what you all might be working on during the travel time. But otherwise, there's not going to be anything else that will delay your trip.
Okay. The only thing I want to do is make sure I get a diamond.
Okay. I mean, were you wanting to try to do that before you get to Emirate Arboris? Because you could
No,
probably get something like that in Pashan as well.
Yeah, we can do it in Pashan.
Well, so I think
Zickies.
Sticky zickies.
Yeah, we have a line of credit there.
well, and I think because you're taking the lightning rail and then the teleportation circle, you're certainly going to be leaving Sunia and everyone who's on Sunia behind. So, Brennan and Lord Hubert and Sequential and Sorshana but they will be following at a slower pace. But it just sounds like the plan is to just go ahead. Just making sure that was understood.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd probably have them hole up in Bashan, actually, rather than going all the way to Emmett or Arboris.
Certainly a convenient location.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yep.
I mean, I think the lightning rail as a means of transportation is, it's probably a novelty to any of you who haven't ridden it before. But at the same time, those of you who are from this material plane probably have seen it at least a little bit. It's not a brand new invention or anything like that. So I would say you have small but comfortable little compartments to ride in, and it's fast, and you watch the landscape zip by, and you can have any conversations you like.
I suppose we can put Buster in the tower so that he's not having to ride in steerage.
Well, for that matter, you don't have to worry about a cramped sleeping compartment if you just go back inside your tower.
Heck yeah.
We only pay for one seat. We're that cheap.
One person gets to sit on the train. Everybody else goes in my pod.
Take turns, confusing the ticket takers.
I was just thinking, like, you sit the tower on the seat and then just kind of buckle it in with a little seatbelt.
I mean, by that rationale, we really only have to pay for one ticket.
Yeah, well, we could even just send it as the cargo. It'd be super cheap about the whole thing.
I'm
Yeah,
just
we've only
gonna
got this
check my
12-ounce cargo.
bag.
Put it in an envelope.
So, I mean, any of these other conversations that you would want to have on the way? I'm assuming, unless anyone decides otherwise, but it sounds like Evan and Ivy would be planning to join you on this excursion. And sounds like you're bringing Buster along too. Why wouldn't you? But so that sounds like that's the lineup. But any of these scenes you would like to have during the travel, by all means.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to get Baldu alone somewhere, and be like, is that how you do it? Like, you go there? I mean, could you just go there right now to the Shadowfell?
No.
Why?
Well, usually, right. So I think I've mentioned, right, that this is the longest I've ever spent away from the Shadowfell, in a single stretch, right?
Right.
And normally what happens is I'll be, doing my daily bits and pieces, and I'll get the nod that I have to go somewhere or do something. And, I'll either have a portal appear in front of me that I step through, and then when I'm done my my task, another one will appear in front of me, or sometimes, depending on, like, if I'm slightly less lucky, I won't even get a portal. I'll just be like disappeared off to a different plane and then disappeared back again. Like, I don't get a lot of say in things. Like, finer details are usually up to me. And whatnot. But in terms, it's more like, go here, do this, come back, kind of thing. Like, that's. And then when I'm not out doing those kinds of things, I'm just around the temples and spreading the good word and pushing a broom and making stew, that kind of thing.
I want to go there.
I mean, I'm sure it's all in the plan.
Yeah. I'd like to go someday.
Like I said, I'm sure it's all in the plan. Like, just be patient.
Well, if like one of those portals opens up, you come and get me.
Right. Well, I mean, sure.
Okay.
Like, my task that I'm currently on is, as far as I can tell, is to be here and help you. So, like, I imagine you'll be around when that portal opens up for me to go home.
It's okay. That's all. I just wondered. Like, it looked like you could just like reach right through there and be like, "Bloop, I'm in."
Oh, well, like that's a little bit different. Like I got these special gloves, and I can put my hand through things. So, but just my hand, because that's only as far as the gloves extend.
Like for assassinations, like you could just reach through to another dimension and be like,
I mean, I have squozed a person's heart using the glove before, yeah. Like like just reach through and just like grabbed it and given it a squeeze.
"That's crazy."
I mean, yeah, it's effective. Don't get me wrong, assuming they only have the one art. But like, it kind of lacks.
Finesse.
Yeah, like takes the skill out of it a little bit.
Hmm.
You know, there's no craftsmanship. I think that's
Yeah.
what it is. There's nothing to be appreciated about it.
I
You
don't
know,
know. I mean, I think if somebody walked in and your hand was in somebody else's chest and you just like pulled their heart out, I think they'd be like pretty impressed and terrified, but impressed.
yeah, but like it's like if like anybody can like take a couple of bits of wood and hammer into nails and put a shelf together, you know. But like a proper artisan, like they'll do it all nice, you know. They'll put some effort, be something to be proud of.
So one of the things that I was thinking there is the ability to squeeze someone's heart in their chest would be useful if the desire was to have it appear as though someone maybe died of natural causes.
Oh yeah,
Right? But generally speaking, when you're sent to take someone out, they're not supposed to look like, oh no, they just keeled over. Like it's supposed to be clear that they have been killed. Like
Mhm.
there's almost a point to be made in the idea that they were not immortal in the way they wished to be.
yeah.
I mean, you could almost materialize your hand inside the chest and then just rip it out. That would be disgusting. Or you could
Oh,
just
yeah.
like leave the heart next
I'm
to
sorry,
the body.
I'm just laughing at you saying that would be disgusting. And just with a big grin on your
Like,
face.
and you can do it the other way around as well. Like I could take, I don't know, like I could take a little vial of poison, right? Hold it in my fist, put it into their, like,
Stomach.
materialize my hand into them, crush it, leave it there, glass and all, mind, and the stopper, and then pull my hand back out. And yeah, that I reckon I haven't done that one yet. I just thought of that one talking to you. So thank you.
You're welcome. That's it. But you could do that. Like you said, it wouldn't have a lot of finesse. But what if you just reached in, pulled out somebody's heart, and just like left that heart next to their body? You're like, here's your heart. Like they definitely didn't die of natural causes.
I mean, yeah, like I say, I've done it. Like sometimes you just, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes you're not really feeling it, and it's just like,
It's an art form.
yeah.
Yeah. I get it. Well, you know, Nedry's gonna have about 9,000 questions about those gloves, just so you know.
You, I don't know if you saw how wide his eyes went
I know.
when he was
Yeah.
like, I didn't get a good look because I was concentrating on what I was doing, but I reckon if I'd looked hard enough, I would have seen questions being written on the inside of his brain as I did that.
He sometimes will literally just whip out his notebook and write stuff down to ask you later. But he does it all the time. You got to be careful. And like he's going to be asking you all kinds of questions because that's what he does. He has to know everything.
That's all right.
I know.
If I'm spreading the good word.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I mean, it's sometimes you have to be like, okay, that's enough, but mostly it's good. End scene.
Yeah. Speaking of Nedry, Nedry, I think at some point Ivy comes to you to just kind of compare notes, and she says, Nedry, I've been thinking a bit about what Tillitha said about the amulet and the idea that we mentioned that someone might be attempting to provide an alternative, and she mentioned something that I'm sure you and I are both familiar with, which is that there have been many magical attempts over the history of magic to create, extended life for various, mortal creatures. But at the same time, given what we know about its broader effects, that the means by which it has this effect, and how that might actually be the key to how it would be used, not so much its ability to extend the life, but the manipulation of energy part. And as much as I don't typically find it in my nature to suspect conspiracy, I can't help but wonder if the idea of preparing an alternative might not be something along the lines of creating another one.
Throughout most of this conversation, Nedry's been kind of just staring at her, and he's sort of taking it in. But then there's sort of this moment where it kind of registers in the back of his mind that's a little suppressed at the moment.
But what do you mean? Like, what would they be making? Something else? You mean?
No, I guess what I'm saying is it's a bit of a mystery to me what they would mean by preparing an alternative, unless they understand what it is meant to do. How would they know what would serve as an alternative?
I was wondering about that too.
But the thing is, what if they attempt to recreate the original creation of the amulet? So in effect, rather than preparing an alternative, rather making a duplicate
Well,
that works in the same fashion.
how much do you know about the Reclaimers Academy?
Some. I mean, I certainly know a bit more than what goes in the typical history textbooks, but certainly
Well-
there's also a lot of lost knowledge during the whole destruction there.
That's just it. I'm not entirely sure there is. The Reclaimers Academy was destroyed by Izeld and her Fury, and a whole bunch of residual terrible magical effects continued afterwards. But they had a lot of things and a lot of knowledge, and I'm pretty sure all of that didn't go away. I have a feeling that there might be forces that have either cataloged that information or maybe actively researching it. They would be the ones to try to attempt to create something like this again, or may have some inkling of what its true purpose is for. I'd really like to have access to whatever logs and records they have, too. So I've kind of held out hope that they might show themselves. At once I thought the adversary was part of that. I'm not entirely sure that's not true, but he doesn't seem entirely on the appropriate researcher level.
I'm just struggling because it's not in my nature to be paranoid. I work with the government in the way that I do because I largely, although can't say that I agree with or even particularly like everyone involved, nonetheless, I generally would believe that whatever knowledge might have been saved or or carried away from the reclaimer's mansion and kept secret from the public. I believe that that would have been done with good intentions rather than some sort of a sinister motive. It may be that it was considered too dangerous to be publicly known. Certainly, I think that you and I can probably agree that there are some things that are perhaps too dangerous to be widely known.
Widely known, maybe, but everything should be
certainly
known.
kept from any who might use it without full understanding.
Mm.
It's difficult. I sense hesitation there because it is, of course, I hate to think of the idea of something being hidden away that could be helpful to people. But I think that there are such things in our world that are just bad. And it's better to protect people from that than to leave dangerous things lying about for anyone to just find.
But not just anyone. I believe in the concept of pure academia, even though I've had some challenges to some of the people I thought were in the same realm.
Speaking of your mentor,
Yeah. Master Finster knows a lot, but they found a spot to break.
it's I did wonder a bit about how you might be feeling about that, because from the perspective that I had at that time, all I knew was that you and your friends were you know connected in some way to some dangerous events, and it wasn't known whether or not you all might be dangerous yourselves in a way that people needed protection from. And so there was an intent to bring you in by whatever means necessary so that that determination could be made. But having met you and knowing you now, I see not only were the suspicions unfounded, but that you're actually doing a great deal of good, and that's why I have given my report to Friend of the Emperor, stating as much, that I believe that the world and the Empire are better off with you and your friends out there doing what you're doing, and that you're doing it for the right reasons. And I said so in my report, and I believe that I was persuasive, but the response I got to the inquiries about the amulet were of a nature that I am not used to. Having a relatively high degree of clearance and knowing a great many things that are, generally speaking, secret to most average people who are not involved at the upper levels, I'm not used to being handled in that way. And I can't say that I care for it. Now, I don't have any particular reason to believe that there is a sinister or corrupt motive at work. It may be that the amulet, the original, has given its dangerous nature. Maybe it simply comes down to them feeling as though the actual amulet itself is too dangerous to be removed from wherever it is currently housed for safekeeping, and that they are hoping that they could replicate its effects in a less dangerous way in order to support our efforts. But if that is the case, I feel like if that were the answer, they would have told me that.
I don't think that whatever they're going to create is going to work anyway. And I'm not willing to risk everything on that. We'll need the original amulet. Well, we'll have to figure out how to get that a little bit later.
Yes, I suspect it will be tomorrow's problem, with today's already looming large.
It's on my list to think about, but it's a long list. As an academic, you might be able to appreciate that, I think.
I have to say, I'm rather excited to see a new part of the Feywild. I've done a bit of excursions there, but never to the oceanic parts. I'm rather excited.
Well, aside from pocket planes, and one trip to rather unhappy fireplane, I haven't really had the chance to see any of the other planes. I'd like to know a lot more. It's a lot of studying that I don't really have time for right now.
Well, I can certainly understand that desire to just the idea that any knowledge unknown is a lack, but I think you should not too easily discount how specialized your own knowledge is and your expertise in the things that you've been through. There are many people who have visited and written about the Feywild, but you have been to planes that nobody has ever visited. Certainly nobody has ever published a paper on.
Well, nobody returned from them, which is
Until you.
true. And maybe I'll get back there again someday. Although, it's felt a little empty, though. Paradise without being able to remember everything you've learned, without being able to put it to use, without being able to research.
Well, I suppose paradise takes a different appearance for everyone. You are speaking of the Eternal Waltz, yes?
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, my own, this is perhaps my own biases showing, but I cannot help but think that seems less a paradise and more an anesthetic.
It's a place to keep busy, I suppose. But I'm already busy enough.
Well, and it's certainly true that there's enough evil and suffering in the plains that it's hard to begrudge some the use of an anesthetic if it helps them.
Maybe. But they could do better. Could do more. Maybe I can convince them someday.
Well, in any event, I guess I just wanted to share my concerns that, given what we have certainly discovered about Dinutherian magic, I cannot help but think that those of us outside the Dinutherian bubble are no less subject to the temptations that such magic might incur.
I think it just is a matter of more study, more care, more structures, and having some people who can watch your back.
Well, that certainly, I think, is a value no matter which plane you're on.
True. Tell me everything you know about the Feywild.
And that's going to be the fade
Sure,
out for that conversation.
I think she does. She tells me about previous excursions that she's been on there. And one of the things that she raises that is not insurmountable, but you'll probably need to at least give a little bit of thought to it, is that the Feywild does have a rather notorious tendency towards time slippage. That unless you have a sufficiently powerful entity prepared to assist you with that transition, you do run the risk of losing a substantial amount of time upon your return from the Feywild. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So I had something.
Mm-hmm.
Zaleen, you at some point will find Carolina kind of oddly quiet and lost in thought, sort of staring out the window with a really strange look on her face.
Okay. I'll just approach and kind of lean into her and what you thinking about?
Doors.
Baldu could probably carve you one out of thin air. I mean,
Well, those aren't the kind of doors I was thinking about. I was trying to remember. You told us once about it was a long time ago. Seems like a long time ago.
it was probably last Tuesday.
That was earlier this morning.
it was something about a dream seems like the wrong word because I know you don't like sleep. But it was something you'd experienced like during a meditation.
Mm,
Something about, other beings trying to get you and something about a door.
yes. I remember what I know what you're talking about. I would have to find, that page in my notes. But I do know what you're referencing.
There just seems to be a lot of talk about doors recently. I mean, going back to that dream you had, but also about the door that's in front of the throne room where Tillith is sitting, and creating a door into Denethir to save people. And just I was thinking about that dream you had, and I feel like there's very few coincidences
Oh my
in our
gosh.
experiences.
One of the things that she said to me was that the key I wear will unlock the door. That's what I remember.
Well,
But I mean, is it this key? And I kind of grabbed the crystal key around my neck.
well, I mean, it did open a door for us, sort of.
But I don't know. I
That-
mean,
that seems too obvious. And I don't know. There's something else bothering me too. Something about what Talitha was talking about to when last we spoke about wondering if the mistress hadn't always been the mistress, that she had become elevated in some way to where she is now,
right.
and that she was potentially a mortal creature before.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wonder if maybe one of these times there's a door you're going to walk through and I won't be able to follow you.
I don't know.
Because so much of you is kind of a mystery, You're, we know who you were, but who you are now is someone different. And part of me wonders if maybe Okay. I was about to say it's not even your final form, but sorry,
I
totally
have
broke
to
the moment.
evolve.
So I guess I'm a little worried about that. There's so many doors that we don't know what's on the other side, you know.
But that's, I don't want to make light of what you're saying because I understand. But of all the things that I've learned, that in itself is life. You never know what's on the other side of the door. There's only one thing in life that's certain, and that's the end.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. The mistress of the dark, like the whole thing is that everything dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't that include her? Not saying that I want to kill her. That's not what I mean. But more like if she goes away, someone has to take her place, right?
Right. I mean, assuming that she meets her end someday.
I guess I'm just a little worried that if she goes away, what if that someone becomes you? I feel like you would be very lonely.
I don't think that will happen. I can't ever even imagine anything like that. I don't.
Well, maybe once
I'm
upon
not.
a time she couldn't either.
But I'm not like her. I'm not. She's so powerful, and I'm not like that.
No,
I
maybe you are and you just don't know.
maybe.
I mean,
But
who you are now is not who you were, 85 years ago. Who knows what you'll be in another 85. I guess all that's to say is just suppose I'm just a little worried for you.
I don't. I don't want to say that if that came to be my role, I wouldn't play it. But it's not something that I'm striving for. I mean, I feel like somebody like her, she knew what she wanted and she went after it, if that's the case. But that's not, I don't know, I'm not walking around thinking, wow, I hope I get to, be the boss of the Shadowfell someday.
Well, in my experience, and from all the stories I've ever heard, typically the people that most want power are the people who have it the least. So maybe in that you don't want it, that's what makes you the person for the job. And I know this is all purely speculation. It just what Talitha said just got me thinking, and there's just so much we don't know about you.
You know everything I know.
Well, what I do know, I really like a whole lot.
I just kind of like laying my head on your
Aw. So I think that we can imagine the lightning rail eventually pulling back into your first return to Pashan Central Station in a while. The last time you were there, things were pretty different. It was a different scenario. You know, you were fighting robot
In
spiders
handcuffs.
and the catwalks and
Does anybody remember if that building was here when we were here before?
Probably wasn't.
but in any case, you are able to make your way from there, and we can imagine. How about this? I was going to go ahead and take us all the way to Emerald Arboris, but were you thinking you wanted to pick up some stuff in Pashan before you go? So how about this then? As the train pulls into Pashan, we can go ahead and draw tonight's session to a close, and we can pick up with Pashan and then forward to Emerald Arboris next week when we return for more adventure on so many levels.
So many
many
levels.
levels.